what's been going on with Microsoft.
We are live. Welcome to this new stream. We are reacting to a video asking the question, why did Bethesda just announce everything? Let's react to it. Apparently it's gaming and this is a Dragon pick. Why did you pick that video, Dragon?
Well, you do claim to be a gaming channel.
Yeah.
But it's also,
movies.
I know the gaming news. Okay, so the video, Bellyware Gaming, both, he is known for doing WoW lore, but a lot of Bellyware news is a game developer himself. But the video I found is Bellyware News. I recommend it as a channel because he'll cover a lot of the inside of the gaming industry and sometimes the tech industry. You will learn a lot of technical details. And this is about why did Bethesda reveal everything. It is, for a while, we weren't sure what Bethesda was doing. One big announcement, it's very easy to miss that Bethesda's dead. We think Starfield hurt. Like, I played Fallout, right? Well, Fallout franchise has been mine. Starfield always felt was a fill-in game to begin with. But there's also a reason they did Fallout 76. Fallout 76 was meant to be the Fallout replacement temporarily till Fallout 5.
So did you download the video? Hopefully you did.
Oh yeah, check and see about it.
So now you will screen share, I guess.
I screen share. I'll get it. Nah, but some people. What we never got to do this morning, but it doesn't take that long. Nah, but the thing about what Bethesda announced, there was also restructuring at, well, see, I never trusted the redesign of Microsoft. It's like YouTube redesigning itself when the guy who was the head of YouTube Shorts was going to come in and save us all.
Nobody can come in and save everyone all.
Well, okay, technically, the meme is there's a bunch of companies actually have a bunch of. So a lot of the heads of American companies right now are Indians. Which sounds weird. I mean,
it's not. I feel like indies are doing better than the big studios because they're cheaper.
The CEOs are Indians. You know, people don't know that. Instead, YouTube has the guy who invented short format. Because short format, right, is, short format was meant to compete with TikTok. The problem is the woman who took over Microsoft, was the head of 3D, was head of animation. Not animation, but she was the head of basically like the AI development. She's promised not to do AI. She's going to probably use AI development. Because the other one I was going to show was an interesting one. But I believe there's another interesting one too, but it was more interesting because it was on. But it's a little more niche unless you know the inside of the industry. He has another one.
So did you find the video we will react to?
Yes. Yes. It's
because I'm about to screen share the YouTube version.
I know. You don't give me time. It's my. But there's also another one he has.
Once again, we're getting huge promises from Bethesda. And the funny thing is, in a way, history's repeating. You see, in 2018, Bethesda revealed The Elder Scrolls 6 was in.
It's always funny. People never learn. this is what's going on. That's why history always repeats itself. People just don't learn.
Well, people
Pre-production.
forget the nature of what's happened with Bethesda. Bethesda is not the terrible studio. They Starfield was one of their actual only bombs. Fallout 76 still churns out money, but it was never meant to be a long-term game. It's really even as the seasons are churning by, because the recent season it kind of shocked me because I stopped playing it. Is a return to Ravenloft. A lot of this is basically it's Fallout in name only. It's like Fallout's version of Fortnite. It really uses and abuses the lore by toilet paper. So it's just Fallout. I mean, I'm pretty
That's
sure
sad.
the problem that's the issue. But Starfield was only meant to be a showcase for Creation Engine 2. That's it. I don't think it was meant for anything else. You see
And the
them.
reason why they did it so early is because they wanted to calm fears, to soothe those who might think that the company was only focused on new IP like Starfield or mobile games like Blades. Now though, 2026, the circumstances have changed, and Bethesda are very loudly telling us about their entire upcoming pipeline. Fallout 5 is in pre-production, Fallout 3 and New Vegas are getting remasters, Obsidian are making a new Fallout game, Elder Scrolls 6 is in full production on a new version of Creation Engine built to support multiple
Hmm. Multi, if you're speaking, you're muted.
Yeah, you're right. I will just say I'm so tired of all of the remake, remaster. Just
No.
reboot the thing.
No, Fallout 3 needs a goddamn remaster. Fallout 3 needs that remaster because I don't know what they're gonna do with New Vegas. Let me give you a little bit of technical detail on both those games. Multi, do you know what year those came out?
No, I have no idea.
I have to go back and look. We're talking early 2000s. Fallout 3 was the first Fallout game.
2008. Wow.
They had, well, if you look how old New Vegas is arguably very loved as a game. I will say it has a really good story, but its gameplay is total ass.
That's sad.
And the problem is, it was using Fallout 3's developed engine. Now, the Fallout 3 engine has one major flaw. It was never designed for 3D. Well, now, when I mean that, all the mods could never save anything with 3D modeling, right?
Yeah.
It basically, why is Fallout 4? Because I know you probably don't play Fallout 4. A lot of people hate Fallout 4. Fallout 4 is probably easily the most modifiable Fallout. It's still fairly good to this day. People forget it, even if the story is a little bland for people. I mean, let me enlighten you. Most RPG storylines are crap and ass, and you're never going to want to play them again. But Fallout, it's about choices. Fallout 3 is one of those ones that we've been asking for a remaster for a good long while, because it's like Resident Evil. When they were remaking Resident Evil, the game was what? 5-6 graphics engines ago? Right?
Probably, I don't know.
And
I'm not a specialist in that.
No. If you think when the first Resident Evils are remaking is being made, 2000s, and then that period, like, I hold the attitude of try to remake a game for a relatively recent engine that is stable. Because once a game reaches a certain age, it will not function on modern Windows. You cannot play Fallout New Vegas unmodded.
That's interesting.
You can play because of the certain design flaws that are built into the systems. All that was fixed by Fallout 4. That is why Fallout 4 to this day largely remains, I believe, but Starfield, everyone thinks Bethesda bidding Starfield. That is their big deal. Everyone likes to think Bethesda can't design games. Now, them redoing. Now, whether or not I trust modern Obsidian to come out with a good game, right? This is a very big flaw. I'm going to point towards two games, and gamers know about them, and you can think this is like Fallout. People don't know. Like, they took the Fallout show with the very sick version of capitalism to the extreme. It's an alternate history. They went nuclear power over everything else after World War II. Fine. But Vegas, didn't done really anything good lately. The Outer Worlds failed. 1 and 2. They're both satirically stupid. So you're talking, well, I guess you're only as good as your last game. But if you're going to put them in charge of remaking potentially Vegas, I'm sure. Vegas has needed a remaster for a while. Because Vegas is a technical nightmare. I just don't know how you're going to salvage a lot of the source code in the modern engine. It's pretty much, even if you try to put it into Creation Engine, the Creation Engine used Fallout 4, it might work. Same I'll be saying for Fallout 3. Fallout 3 is in the same camp. Fallout 3 is in the camp that thing barely runs on Windows 11.
Well,
that's what I mean.
Let's continue this.
You're getting what I'm saying. Why games?
Yeah,
Really
dated engines with dated game.
Yeah.
Projects at once. So the whole era of one major project at a time is firmly over, and the fun thing is that none of this came from the Xbox showcase a month ago or some grand reveal stream. It was just announced on a random Friday blog post called A Note from Bethesda Game Studio.
By the way, if you ever see a note dump, whether it's political or on a Friday,
they want us to forget about that.
No, they want it done. It's a mandatory announcement, and it's always done. It's done in middle of the week, sometimes to catch the announcements, but it is also done by companies on weekends that maybe it gets a glow up, but it's also forgotten about. The problem is everyone thinks Bethesda is dead. People really do think Fallout 76 is dead. I know it's not dead. It's still very active. I mean, Elder Scrolls Online still does really well for them. So you're talking about... But the problem with Elder Scrolls 6, it's not... Like, you don't know anything about when they're talking about remaking KOTOR or remaking Deus Ex. People believe that the KOTOR remake, because it was supposed to be handled by Saber Interactive, fine. Like let's say this KOTOR remake, a lot of people have been waiting for a while because it is a very beloved RPG. But the problem is, what are the chances that I woke up with the names on the tip of my tongue? The Jedi that went from light to dark, him, he's going to be a they, them, non binary because
Wow.
of the story. And that wasn't in the original story. And uh, he's part of an actual lore now. The problem is they had a lot of development issues in that team, and it was being done eventually by Saber Interactive, who did Space Marine and Space Marine 2, kind of right. So it's in good hands. But the same way is these remakes. Deus Ex is a very, very, very sensitive game. It's not violent in the term, but it is an RPG that has stood the test of time, where it's a morally gray cyberpunk style world, but different flavor that is about controlling the future, but you have to retain the flavor of it. But that remake is supposedly has been in the works. But now it's not arguably going to be as soulless as the remake of Halo. The problem is remake Halo, they already remastered Halo. See, there's a whole story to campaign involved. They used the engine that they used for Infinite, which is arguably a beautiful engine, but it is launching with no multiplayer with some slight changes to the actual story. So when you hear about Bethesda being dead, they just said they're working on Creation Engine 3. Okay.
That's interesting.
Creation Engine. So here's the thing about Creation Engine. Creation Engine is theirs. Creation Engine is so most of the game industry. Sorry, gonna rant about this because people are gaming know about this. Unreal 5, because there was another video I was debating to look at. It doesn't meet the timestamp, my time requirements, 25 minutes. It's about Todd Sweeney wanting to use Unreal Engine because, yeah, Fortnite sells. A bunch of kids buy skins, like to play what they think is a shooter, right?
Yeah.
Nah, fine. It's not an industry leader. Epic is still a storefront. Can't ever compete with Steam. Not on the same level. Now, the problem is he's trying to embed Unreal 5 Unreal, Unreal into full game development. Now, it's good nor bad. I believe the current Unreal is a better movie producer than a game engine, but we'll see if 6.9 and 7 prove to be better because everything seems to be uncanny valley with it. But you're talking a lot of these game companies make their own engines as proprietary engines. Blizzard still has their own. I had an argument with somebody and they think it's straight like Space Marine 2 was done on Unreal. No, it's full of shit. I proved him wrong too. Creation Engine is an actual creation engine that's meant to be used for all Fallout games. So arguably they've been at 1.5 or 2 for a while. What they officially called to, yeah, it's in Starfield, but you could say it's a modified version. I mean, whatever engine they use for Fallout 4, modify that upwards to be stable, you'll have a perk. because it gives them an actual their own proprietary engine. That's the big announcement with Creation Engine 3. But designing an engine without going to someone else to use it, like Battlefield's largely driven by the Frostbite engine or whatever the current Frostbite engine is, whatever the engine they're using. Battlefield at the end of the day is a test demo for EA. Does that make sense, Multi?
It does. They like to test the water on things.
Battlefield 6 is largely the test engine for whatever engine they're trying to put into the games industry. So, and Battlefield 6 largely runs really well. I mean, but Battlefield 6 suffers from a very different problem.
So I guess now we can continue the video because we are still quite early.
For news that large, it's a bit suspicious, though certainly, if Starfield left you worried about Bethesda, this, surely, is exactly what you would want to hear. Though, a little like the past, a little like that initial reveal of Elder Scrolls 6, it seems this is being done for reasons of PR. It seems a bit desperate, and I think it is. Because in the last few weeks, across multiple Xbox studios like id and ZeniMax Online, we've seen a whole new marketing strategy roll out. And that strategy is, Xbox is fine. You don't need to worry. Simply look forward to what's coming next. Stop talking about it. So, let's talk about it. Today's thread kicked off 2 weeks ago with a leaked email. ZeniMax's leadership emailed staff and told them about a new post-layoff strategy that was, in their own words, shifting from a planning model primarily centered on what's next for each independent studio to one that focuses on our strongest franchises. Hardly a surprise, people like Fallout, let's crank out more Fallout. But it would be wrong to think that they've spun up this whole pipeline just in the last 2 weeks. And Todd Howard actually said as much in Reddit. He said that this was, quote, what we've been working on the past several years.
Let me say, here's what happened. Multi, are you familiar with the major layoffs that hit a bunch of studios at Microsoft recently?
Yeah, I thought it was industry-wise. Like, the industry is not doing well.
Well, the industry is shrinking. He's about to get into it and talk about the middle managements that got cut in some of the DEI jobs. But here's the other part of it that people don't know. Microsoft made the announcement. What if I said, as despised as they made Doom, the Dark Ages feel terrible, it sold really well.
And I also got to say this. I feel like these layoffs are just a premise of what happens next. Because with PlayStation, like, getting away from physical media, I think it will hurt the industry so much.
That's Sony. No, that's Sony as much. I believe the physical is a trap. Because the reason why when I said don't cover it, I mean, it's making its way back again, right?
Yeah.
But
a lot of people are not having it.
Computers haven't had CD drives for a while, for the record.
Yeah.
People don't realize that. It's been digital download for some time. We know the next generation Xbox is going to be internal hard drive with no CD hard drive.
And this is when they lose me.
No, it shouldn't lose anybody. And PlayStation was always going to go the same because the next generation Xbox was supposed to be announced because a part of the leaks from Microsoft themselves. So when you start shrinking down teams, they closed down Ninja Theory. Now, call Hellblade a good or bad game. It was never my type, too much of a movie game, but they got rid of them. Okay? But they also had some real stinkers, so they closed them down because some of their games were very underperforming.
I'm not
Bethesda,
surprised.
Bethesda still makes money. It may appear that Fallout 76 doesn't make money by what player counts and whatever else, but people still play it. Elder Scrolls Online, it's still highly popular. Everyone thinks of it the stupid mobile game. They never really focused on that. They focus on ESO and they focus on. Now, arguably, my rant about Fallout 76 is it's just Fortnite version of Fallout. But, I mean, look, it's fun to play, but it's very repetitive. I mean, personally, the only reason I stopped was it's largely just, I mean, nothing new under the sun. But a lot of what you're seeing is Microsoft, Bethesda alone in the quarter did 500 million.
That's interesting.
That's not a failure. Okay.
Yeah.
That was their quarterly earnings.
So I guess now we will play more of the video.
Now, the thing is, he's not wrong. We've actually known that the Fallout 3 remaster was on the cards since Bethesda was acquired, and that was thanks to the FTC leaks. Then there's Elder Scrolls 6, that's been in full production, so if we have 4 years of full production, like with Starfield, then we can expect that out around 2028. You see, from everything we can piece together, the main plan here hasn't actually shifted. So then that begs a question. Why are we hearing about all of this stuff now? Because whenever we hear about something, it's because the companies put it out there. Part of this is marketing for Xbox's new direction. I mean, just take
Part of this is also because they are restructuring. But here's the other thing. When you're hearing about games being delayed, GTA 6 is going to finally come out this year. That game has been in development hell since 14 or 15.
And I've heard it will cost a lot of money.
Well, no. It is supposed to probably be the first $100 title out the gate. Like, people forget that. Multi, you don't remember how much Borderlands 4 was when it came out, do you?
I was out of the loop.
Borderlands 4 was the most expensive, even. Okay. You buy the deluxe version of a game because it has extra features. So the perks of like buying a game that's like deluxe edition out the gate is you actually get the DLC for free half the time. Which that's what Frostpunk did. They're very the comeback company's very beloved. A couple of others, it's the free updates. The trick a lot of things are is you're seeing a lot of these companies that are in Xbox. As I said, they earned 500 million in the quarter alone. Which that is good. Okay. That's you don't think that's good, but that's compared to something like because there's actually a big shakeup too about if you play D&D or Magic, because the president just got sacked. There's a lot of big theory
That's surprising.
at Wizards. But the interesting part is I have my own theories on why that's the case. And I have that because that is probably because the projected earnings of what's been going on with both Magic and D&D.
They aren't so great.
It's because of Universes Beyond, and it's also because D&D is having issues with D&D Online. Same thing is happening within Xbox. Xbox has been doing, we haven't seen. So when corporates announce stuff, they've been getting rid of, you'll see they've been getting rid of middle managers. Large people were laid off, or that teams who were underperforming or late were downsized. But I firmly believe when games are delayed, I would rather have a delayed game versus a flawed launch. Elder Scrolls 6, Bethesda knows they can't fuck up on.
Because if they do, I think they're cooked. It's a big title that everyone wants.
It's probably never going to get the people who want Morrowind or Daggerfall, right? They're very different. The Cult of New Vegas, people really think. But there's actually a crowd that has actually believed they've been dead since Fallout New Vegas. Really. And honest to God. Yet they're the same people who will play the Oblivion remaster. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's the problem. So a lot of this stuff, the franchises that were making money have been doing it. But the problem is that's how far back Elder Scrolls 6 was announced. So it's going to take about off and on for 10 years. And I'm going to guarantee you half of the problems in development with Elder Scrolls 6 has been the creation engine and other redesigns. Not for the reasons people think. I believe it's the quest design and they're trying to theory test what people want. So you have a lot of these. It's not just Bethesda. Bethesda is one part of Microsoft. Because Microsoft is no longer... It's becoming a platform. Does that make sense, Balti?
Yeah.
Xbox Live is about... It is a platform of Steam on PC. It's not as exclusive as PSN. So, Microsoft, people forget this. And I mean, I can forgive you for not knowing this. Their whole goal was to make Xbox Live. That's why when you look at your computer, it's not called the Marketplace. It's called Xbox Live. Have you ever noticed that?
Yeah, I did.
Xbox Live is what their brand is. They are basically turning themselves into a miniature version of Steam. Now, realistically, do they have different practices? Sure. Because every time you see them release for PC, right, it's being released for there. Now, Steam still largely gets releases. So you got to see... People are worried that Microsoft, because what's really weird is how they handle a lot of franchises. Because everyone under Microsoft, we'll continue too, because there was like a big shakeup with like Total War under Sony.
Yeah.
That part with the Total War franchise.
Yeah.
Basically, what happened with Sony and a lot of it, there was another game company underneath them that was there. So they got a visit from the parent office in Japan.
Yeah.
In the West, we call it put the fries in the bag and just make the game. CA decided to make a first-person shooter called Hyenas a long time ago. And they've been making Total Wars. Sony told them, the reason why you're seeing the 40K Total War announcement and all of that, and they're going back to Total War format, is because that's what's making money. Sony Corporate has reined in a couple of its affiliate gaming companies because they're canning DEI projects and they're canning any projects which they don't think are not going to make money.
It's about time.
It's been that because it's not gone are the days you're going to have the games of like South of Midnight and a couple of other games that are released, Dustborn being another one. But Dustborn was largely funded by the Norwegian government.
I think that was just survival at that point because they realize it's not viable. They need to do something to turn the ship around.
But there's also something that's been going on in the gaming industry that hasn't been really addressed over the years. Corporate culture is very slow to change, if that makes sense, Malty.
Yeah.
Basically, boardroom only cares about
Money.
one thing: money and the success. Is it making money? Now,
DI doesn't make money anymore.
huh? Repeat the first part.
DEI doesn't make money
No,
anymore.
it doesn't. It makes it when you make a product niche. Because certain games are going to be people who play Fallout. Like, let's say people who play Diablo 4. Diablo 4 is for the stay-at-home dads. Same with most Diablos. They're not played by kids.
I guess now we can't play because that tangent went on for way too long.
Take a look at what the CEO, Asha Sharma, highlights from this announcement. She talks about playtime, sales, and more games coming soon. And this is basically proof of her changes, with a new Fallout coming, of course, from Obsidian, and franchise entries across the board. And whenever this news came out, people celebrated. I mean, YouTube was absolutely packed full of excited videos. It's a lot of cool IP. I totally get being excited about that. And that's especially because a lot of it just made sense. There's been demands to know why Xbox leadership hadn't pushed for, say, Fallout games to launch around the TV show. Would have made sense, right? But now the framing is Bethesda are moving faster, delivering more games in the franchises that you actually care about, which actually explains what Jason Schreier's sources found, that the game Obsidian were making before this had nothing to do with Fallout. Now Obsidian are making Fallout. Because really, this announcement is built to answer a question before you think to ask it. And it is, can these studios, after all the people that they've lost, still even make...
So in the losses, Obsidian had 2 failed launch games. That is Outer Worlds 1 and that's Outer Worlds 2. Outer Worlds 2 is Reddit slop, mixed with social communism. And I hate saying that. That's the same people who get praise for making New Vegas. New Vegas was an accident and a fluke. It was a leftover project on the side table by ZeniMax. Never let anyone tell you otherwise. If you like it for the story. You can never justify it for the gameplay. The problem is Obsidian was acquired, but Microsoft told them to put the fries in the bag and just go back to making a Fallout game that sells. That is what they got to it. Now, here's the fun part about Fallout 5. We have known for, let's say it's been 10 years since the last Fallout. Actual Fallout. We don't know the setting. They've gone from several different settings. And it's not just going to be a new Fallout game. You're talking at least 3 to 4 DLCs. So you need the setting because the timeline's going to move forward. One thing is true, what he just said is a miss. We kept wondering when the announcement of the new Fallout game was going to be. Not just the remake, but on the show. Because the show is starting to touch on some new lore. So they could move back west. So the setting for Fallout 5 has been... we don't know. But once we know, we can go off of that.
These games. And what Xbox wants to do is just scream into the void, very loud yes. Effectively then, this is proof of life for these studios. We know that Bethesda Game Studios got off relatively lightly with the layoffs compared to the rest of Xbox, though they did still lose some pretty vital talent, people who had been there for a long ass time. Now, reports of course circulated that id Software was particularly brutalized, and on top of veteran cuts across the company, one claim said that id were down to around 50 people, with a single member of staff left working on engines at their Dallas office. Now, as
That's a big
at the time,
cleanup.
you certainly had to wonder what that team could even make next, and whether enough people.
A lot of it was middle management.
Wow.
Ask anybody who. A lot of these corporate restructuring under Microsoft, it had. So the main studio under Bethesda that's running Fallout 76 is in Austin.
That's interesting.
It's a smaller end. It's basically, to my knowledge, and you don't need a giant team. How many people do you think made Fallout 3?
A few hundreds? I don't know. I have no idea.
Here's an idea. This will tell you when there was bloat in the industry. Fallout 3 was made around with 80 employees and college students.
That's interesting.
Here's the thing. A team that is very compact and good at their job, you can design a game because it's easier to have a passion project. How many people worked on Expedition 33?
I don't know. Less than 100.
About 30.
Wow. Close.
With about 20 to 30 beta testers, like quality testers. So you're talking a tight-knit team. Now let's take bigger, more successful versions that everyone does. How much do you think was about the bloat they put into Fallout 4?
I have no idea.
They went a little above 100.
Well, it's open world, so maybe it makes sense.
And then one thing is, and this was actually no joke with what they were doing with Fallout 76. They put so they had this thing where they put like double the game staff, let's say 2.5 times roughly, into Fallout 4. Game studios arguably don't get better as they get enlarged with corporate interest. They get worse. That's middle management. Because what you're about to see, I think he touches on it, is the middle management structure. Because, just to give you an idea, eventually one of the Fallout people had like 320 people in. Yeah, that's too many hands and too many cooks in the kitchen. And I can guarantee you, as a person that plays Fallout 76, I enjoy it. But you go to the old parts of the game, you can tell the old code from the new code.
That's disgusting.
Basically, there's an area in there, and it's still in the game to this day. They'll look in the water, and they'll look at the texture. The person who put the texture in the water, the floorboard, the flooring of the water, is very different. And if you know anything about Fallout and how the engines work, that engine was still largely a carryover from initially between Fallout 3 and Fallout 4 in its design. Now, what you're about to see, as we get into it, is about the middle management. Because a lot of these companies, when they consolidate, will increase middle management. one.
That happens a lot in a lot of industries. So I guess we can play now, and they will ruin everything with the middle management, as you said.
Were even left to handle it. And id have actually responded to that in a very specific way. They said, quote, "We still have the crew we need to build the games and tech we're known for. The team today is about the same size we were when making Doom 2016. And after that statement was made, they actually doubled down on it. On the launch stream for Doom The Dark Ages Revelations, the co-studio director Hugo Martin explained that the worries about a 50-person studio and no engine technicians were basically wrong. Here's the quote from him. "We're the size we were when we made Doom 2016, and id Tech is very much alive and well." Once again, some more proof of life from a studio that we do know had a lot of job losses. So far, that's Obsidian, Bethesda Game Studios, and id covered. Then, of course, there's ZeniMax Online. They have had their turn. Their layoffs were part of truly massive cuts. Following those cuts, their leadership was replaced by internal staff, as was reported by GameFile. But at the ESO Tavern event that went down in Germany, Massively OP reported a statement from developers Jason Barnes and Jessica Folsom. ZeniMax Online Studios are now the same size as they were when they made both Hrothgar and Somerset, which, as we know, are both highly acclaimed expansions. But here's the thing, that comparison kinda cuts both ways. The Somerset team wasn't also supporting Elder Scrolls 6 development. This one will be, whilst also delivering their next ESO expansions, and all somehow at the same level of quality as always. Seems tough. Now, one thing you may notice when comparing, say, that statement from the ESO people and then the statement from Hugo is how similar they are. These are studios that suffered because of the layoffs, and they know that players are worried about what comes next. So of course, the line they're putting out there is that everything is okay, because the studio as a whole is at a similar level of staffing as it was whenever it produced insert beloved entry in franchise here. So
I feel like when they are saying everything is okay, not everything is okay. It's just a way to cope.
Sorry. There's a massive story and I'd have to find it if you're ever curious. Look at who got laid off. Arch was joking about it. Then they showed the image where they showed the laid off employees, like in memorials of the dead that were like killed in a mass shooting. Okay. And they did this in the Bethesda office or the ID or the ZeniMax office. Some of these, if you looked at the people, were actually the DEI hires and people who were arguably put into the games that they weren't being successful or they were being problems. There's two kinds of people. A lot of what you're not seeing is middle management. Yes, the teams are the same size. Remember, Bethesda only used 80 employees and both 80 total employees and college students to make Fallout 3. There's no need for a massive team. One thing I told you when they enlarged a studio, part of the team that is the head open world designer for Ubisoft, Massive Entertainment, they are behind a lot of different games if you look them up. They were always a compact studio. They always worked on stuff. They got tasked with becoming the open world studio for Ubisoft. Now, guess what happened after they got swelled to about 750 employees? The president left. People forgot that. If you know anything about the industry,
it's never a good sign.
He knew something was wrong. And if you know anything about Massive, never trust Massive ever with 100% team to actually work on anything. Because Division 2 took 5 different studios.
Wow. Anyway, I guess now we can continue because I see time flies. So let's continue.
I guess it's all fine, and they just need to go and build more great content like that stuff that they built a while ago. Here's the thing, it really is almost like they're following the same marketing playbook. But the problem with marketing beats is that they need to be based on actual evidence. And for it especially,
If that's true that they are following the same marketing, they just don't learn, and that's tragic.
that seems to be going against them. First, the Frankfurt office. It specializes in the idtech engine, and its continued strength was the go-to answer for fears about idtech being discontinued. Now, Aftermath's Nathan Grayson said that studio had also suffered layoffs, and according to what he was able to dig up, half were let go, and that's a quote. Then there's Game Developer. They spoke to sources inside id, who very much undermined the whole Doom 2016 narrative. They did so twice over, actually, because that game, they pointed out, required a lot of outsourcing and last-minute hiring in the first place. And they also suggested that of the staff remaining at id who had worked on that game, 2/3 of them were laid off in this wave. That certainly suggested more experienced staff were let go, and of course, that would include experienced staff who had shipped Doom 2016 with a smaller team size, and almost certainly learned a lot of lessons from that. But of course, from Xbox's position, that's just
I thought they learned things from that, because if you lay off your more experienced folks, you are stuck with the less experienced one, and the less experienced one, I'm sorry, but like they will most likely crash your thing.
Actually, no. On the contrary, the interesting part is a lot of things in video games, when you start to hear about stories about stuff, my favorite part is it's like the game that was made by the supposed Titanfall team recently that turned out to be crap. They were told, you're not the team created by Titan, who created Titanfall. Everyone knows. I still see this mistake in YouTube videos. People don't get this. They think the same team that was part of Bungie is the same team that worked on Halo. Very, very few, by the way.
Most of them maybe left the industry entirely.
So every time you hear by the studio that made this, there's a big likelihood that half your talent is gone from that era, because they've either retired or they got on to do their own game studios. That's actually a weird thing, because it happens a lot in the industry. So the part of the reason of the decline with what Sony, before we get too long, but the reason why Destiny 2 was starting to die was not because Sony bought into a lie. They were bought for about 3.4 billion. Or about 3.6 was a rumor, maybe. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of investment by Sony. Multi, how much of that was technical debt and project debt, you think?
I have no idea.
Hold your horses, and you're going to gasp very loudly. And this was only people are discovering this now. About $1.2 billion was technical debt and outstanding projects. And to pay for staff to stay through projects and to cover layoffs, if layoffs were to occur. $1.2 billion. You want to know how long that lasted?
I don't know.
About a year to year and a half.
Wow.
They were sold a bill of goods. Guess what Sony did to them? They reined them in. Hard. So, Destiny 2 was on death's doorstep long before. After they had finished the game, the Light and Dark saga, and they were going episodic, Everyone knew. It's kind of like one of those things. You know the game's done. You know, even if it's a seasonal game, it's gonna not get the life. And you already know Destiny 2 was already dead by the character changes. You don't know what they were doing. But everyone was like, and there's still a huge section. Their next game was Marathon, an extraction shooter that they're now doing a PvE mode. That is dying. Marathon is dying. Destiny 2 is hanging on by a thread. They may try to breathe life into it with free to play content. But here's the thing, Sony reined them in and put them under boot and healed because they got fooled. So you don't fuck with corporate. So is Sony wrong to do what they did to Bungie? Hell no, in my opinion. They made a lot of bad design calls with Destiny 2, and they never paid the price for it. A lot of people know the management, they never- you're getting the idea.
I think you're glitching, my friend.
Am I? Am I robot?
Yeah, you were like underwater or something.
Does it sound better now or no?
Yeah, it's solved.
So here's a big thing that's been happening in the industry. When the talent leaves, the worst thing Microsoft does is they hire contract workers. So you remember when the Halo Infinite drama happened?
Yeah.
Halo Infinite. Microsoft is very famous for using contract workers to fill in. So 343 decided to yank their engine out of the game and replace it.
Yeah.
About a year and a half prior, when the decision was made. The problem is you're going to have to train new staff and contract workers to work on your game. Microsoft did not like having long-term people under contract. If that makes sense.
It does.
They aren't a big fan of it. So paying good teams for a while is because corporate culture thinks so. So it is to say when a lot of these teams say they're not talented anymore, well, I mean, a lot of those people either went very woke or they had other reasons they were canned. It wasn't because they were talented. So you get the idea, right, Multi? They said
Yeah.
but there's also crunch. The problem is there's a suspicion that we're going to be in another gaming crash. We had one about a decade ago, about 2010, about 08, 09. We'll have another one. People have suspected we've been on the verge of it for a while.
And that's because people don't learn.
Just little details that journalists are throwing into the space. No, Xbox don't need you to worry about any of that, because their message is that everything is fine, and that these studios can still ship games. I want you to go back
They
to
don't
those
learn.
statements that we've covered so far, where both frame making the game as pure maths. Put a certain number of developers in, and hey, you'll get a great game out the other end. But of course, we really can't treat a studio like a black box. We can't treat it in that way. Though of course, that's how Microsoft wants you to think about this. They tie the older good game to a leaner studio, and they imply that therefore nothing will be lost from firing a whole bunch of devs. That in fact maybe something might be gained. And I bet it does look great on a balance sheet. But there is subtext here as well. It's the same doublespeak as, quote, 14 layers of management that you found.
I'd even say they're trying to save face with old success. But yeah, let's continue that.
In Asha Sharma's memo. The suggestion there is that corporate bloat somewhere in the process is hurting the more recent project.
That's what I was talking about. Multi. That was the management level.
Wow.
You see that on screen? People, you
Yeah.
see that?
Yeah.
Five. They're still gonna say we're gonna go 5, possibly 3. Kid, that's like when you go to a Walmart, the person who's at the front end manager, right, has 3 managers above them, dude, in one store, in the same department. Is that just weird bloat, dude? And it's the part about middle management. Everyone has complained about middle management. This is her own words, and this is what's not been forgotten about. This is what's been hurting gaming for a very long time. Let the game companies cook. It's either going to be good or bad, but the middle management has been murdering the industry.
And
Okay.
while I've absolutely no doubt that there was lots of corporate bloat, I mean, come on, it's Microsoft, we still need to remember when we're reading a memo from a CEO of a big company like this, every word is picked carefully. Putting it in the memo and not putting other, less convenient things in the memo is really a tactic to
Protect itself.
distort how you see.
Oh, it gets worse. What he just flashed, I wish he showed it earlier. There was 14 layers of review on projects.
That's a lot.
God, that would be what you need with like building codes, dude. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Building a building with building codes. So, that is
the overall picture.
That is a
And we
very-
see more and more of this as we go through all of their comms. As an example, Creation Engine 3 plays the same role, really, heading off fears about Starfield's issues being repeated. Because hey, new engine version, big change. And if you put all of this together, it's all just screaming into the void that players have nothing to worry about, and that they should in fact be excited for the next game that they will purchase from these studios. If they somehow pull it off, that would be a good thing. We all want more great games. And the remaining devs, I'm sure, are very talented. I mean, at id especially, they just shipped DLC that has been very well received, even with reports of significant crunch on that project coming from game developer. Their talent is not in question, but the environment that they're in and the pressure that they're under, that is what's worth interrogating. And that's because numbers do not make games. Teams of people make games. It is about experience, about knowledge that stays in the building, and a deep understanding of the type of game that you are making. If you go and look at a lot of communications from, say, Japanese development companies that have been very successful over the last bunch of years, you see many statements that basically come down to, we fostered a great team because of that retained experience. Yeah, our games are pretty great. That's something we've seen across multiple studios with really strong modern track records. And so when you think about the next Elder Scrolls game, think about, say, the senior people who worked on Morrowind, or even games before that, who are now no longer at that company. There's a lot of real experience that literally cannot be replaced because it actually just takes years to develop. So basically, my message for you today is have a grain of salt when it comes to how...
By the way, there's a big, when people mention how Eastern and Western companies work, I'm going to ask you this because you like Nintendo games, don't you?
I used to. Well, I still do, but I don't like where they're heading to with Nintendo right now.
So I have a question. Has Nintendo never always been a greedy company that's masked its intentions?
Yeah, that's why I'm tapping out. Because I wasn't seeing it before, but
You're now seeing it.
yeah, they are showing it to the world.
They've been showing it to everybody for years. Everyone, they weren't. Okay, let me let me give you an idea. See, I play Eastern games, okay? That's a lot of Eastern games are sometimes what I prefer. Hell, let's use MiHoYo as an example. They so when companies like Sony start with PlayStation, well, let's say Final Fantasy, right? Uh, have you ever played any of the Monster Hunters? Like under no multi
What?
Monster
I
Hunter,
glitched out.
Monster Hunter. Played them?
No.
Monster Hunters largely are the same. Can
I think
someone
I played
tell?
one on the DS. Was there one on DS?
There
I think there
probably
was
is,
one. Yeah.
but there's Monster Hunter stories, right?
Yeah.
Capcom's
It's like
been
Pokemon, but not as
Monster
good.
Hunter is basically. So I had this conversation with a friend the other day. I brought up, and I'm thinking to myself, Asia is about always behind the West. They use. So I had this conversation on in Arch's stream Saturday. They're talking about Shift Up, who's doing Stellar Blade using AI. Shift Up is known like for the AI video for the using the Blood Rain model as an AI person, right?
Yeah.
Think what you will about the art. They did it to be cheap to get a promotional material out, right?
Yeah.
Asia is about when you look at how they make money in gaming, and including Nintendo, they'll put out a really good basic product that makes gangbusters, right? Think of
Yeah.
Donkey Kong Country. That looks like a basic game. Mario, right? But
Yeah.
it's gonna make gangbusters. But they look at the profit margin and sometimes that goes into redevelopment. Sometimes that just goes back to corporate. But you can't tell me that they haven't overpriced their stuff and what they're
Now they
doing.
did. It wasn't like that before, but they did in the last few years actually.
Last few years, especially noticeable with the Switch 2. Most
Yeah.
people could have said that with
That's
the.
why I didn't purchase the Switch 2 because I was seeing what they were doing and I stopped trusting
And
them.
I use Nintendo as one. When I look at a game company like MiHoYo's largely started off in Japan and then they moved to Singapore, which, I mean, here nor there, they operate in both. They do Genshin Impact, they do what? All of the MiHoYo games, the HSR, ZZZ. They try to do the fan service, which is like minimalist that can get by, but the character model they release makes a shit ton of money. Now, some releases release to middling success, and then sometimes they get bullied into doing releases differently. Because you'll see the story about the gotcha games and the stuff like that that make a lot of money. Now, the thing is, the player base rewards a good model and a good character. They know this. But people don't realize sometimes the minimalist effort baseline, what they think sells, is put forward. This is a very different and
You're underwater again. Underwater effect.
really.
It's slowly coming back normal, but you went underwater a few seconds.
So when I say
Oh,
about
now
me,
it's off.
huh? Good.
Yeah, it's good now.
So MiHoYo affects games. What people don't realize, game companies in Asia, their technology is behind the West. Like when Sony did the game with the black girl, right?
Yeah.
Forspoken. Someone from Sony America told them you need to make a Japanese game with a black protagonist. Hmm.
That's funny.
Guess what? Japan really doesn't understand. After Elon Musk bought Twitter and removed the filter on Japan, they got to see what the Western world, what was happening. There was a Sony was trying to market to the West, right? So you needed a DEI game. But when you asked a Japanese developer or an Asian developer, they're working on outdated, older technology that everyone can make and use games. But they also don't understand our culture. Yes, the Japanese have a progressive infection, but it's very slow. They're about 6 years to 10 years behind the West, traditionally. They're trying to avoid the DEI disasters. So the interesting part is it's hitting Sony a little bit, but a lot of these Eastern companies, people in the West do not understand them. They are a backwards culture that is behind Western culture. And it's not an insult to them. Because
they don't make the same mistake as us.
Well, there's another part to this. They don't have access to the technology we have. Before someone says they do, no. Do you know what the Chinese consider a gaming PC? A gaming cell phone.
That's funny.
Computer like gaming lounges are a big thing in Korea and in China, right?
Yeah.
They don't own their best things that they own sometimes are gaming consoles or cell phones. And in fact, some of the gaming cell phones are better than actual phones we can get over here. And cheaper. Imagine being able to game at 60 FPS for 10 plus hours. Fuck.
Wow.
God.
On a cell phone?
Yes.
Wow.
That is actually what I've been wanting to get one of those. And they're GSM. You can get them in America. You can. So, and I use this as an example. They are still largely behind in technology. Their engines, you look at their game development. Every Monster Hunter looks like it's not that far evolved from Monster Hunter World. Or Monster Hunter Arise still looks that way. Why does every Pokemon game look the same? Can you tell me when the last game that was a Pokemon game looked like it evolved?
When the Switch came out?
Like, Pokemon has looked the same for a decade. The engine has looked the same. And it is, I swear to God, the same engine.
So I guess now we should continue because you made your point clear.
Anyone who's in a big leadership position from Xbox, from Microsoft, talks about this stuff because it is all marketing. It is all spin. That is what these companies will do because obviously they're incentivized to do so. Because whenever they say, hey, look at all these huge cuts, all the blah, 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 but don't worry, it's fine. It's fine, and we're actually going to have even more games. The games that you care about, and it's going to be great. Obviously, be suspicious of that. You see, the one thing I've noticed from the very beginning of Asha Sharma's tenure is that she is really good at public relations. She has clearly got a team around her who are able to back her up and do really good PR. But as much as we can respect that, we also need to acknowledge Xbox is marketing a future to you that their devs have to deliver at any cost. And if there are wobbles, the cost will be very high. So here's where we are then. 5 or so years of big franchise games promised, studios wired together to deliver said games, and far fewer people inside the machine. Making more with less. That's why this whole marketing strategy is so important. They need you to trust that Xbox can deliver more of the things that you love. And they need you to forget, or simply
That's a matter of survival. They need to spin it in a way people will still consume the product. They don't have a choice.
not care that the people who made those games aren't there anymore. They need you to not worry and just accept what is coming. The question then is, will you? So stay curious, and if you want an example of an actual team of devs going through complete shit, but somehow seemingly pulling it off, watch this video next, because honestly...
So I guess that was the video, and that was very interesting. Thank you for bringing this up.
Because it encompasses a lot. People don't know what Asher Sharma was basically doing. The problem is that when they cut a lot of the middle management, it actually changed it. The problem is what you're seeing is the game industry shakeup, right, is extremely it's been on the verge of collapse because half the corporate boardroom, I've said this for years, there's two enemies. The activists was always trying to get into the gaming industry past Gamergate. There's an attitude that Gamergate, nothing moved beyond it. That's a lie. The problem is the activists got in. As much as I like Destiny 2, Cyrus was never gay for Saint 14. Yet people ate that up, never questioned Bungie. Like, sure, you could see the signs, you could see the cracks in the foundations. Okay? The issue is with the industry itself. Asha Sharma, I never hailed her as the savior. A lot of people did. The problem is, I've always said, the boardroom overestimates. That's why you keep saying, the reason why you get the game you've heard of Apex Legends, right?
Yeah.
Guess what that was supposed to be?
One of the first two live game to last long.
Do you know what it was originally?
I don't know.
It was originally planned as Titanfall 3.
Oh, really?
And after a couple of years, they had none of their original staff left.
Wow.
Because all their original staff left after the burnout. Live service churns companies. It chewed through Bethesda so bad eventually.
So I guess now we are moving to the outro because I gotta go. What do you have going on your end of the internet?
I'm gonna try about 30 minutes to 40 minutes. I'm working on Genshin Impact from 6.2 to 6.7 because Snezhnaya is coming out on the 12th. I did have Beast of Reincarnation planned. That's going to be shoved off till next week. And at some point, I'm going to have to sit down and watch The Cape Crusader. And I will probably have a season end review after Wednesday. I don't know when they put it in.
There's so much content.
X-Men 97, because X-Men 97 I was going to review episode by episode, but as I mentioned, that's going to be bulk, but it's also coming into gaming. So, as I said, what might interest you eventually, but you may not be into Souls-like, is Beast of Reincarnation.
I tried Dark Soul, and I'm not made for that kind of game.
Here's the interesting part about Beast of Reincarnation. It's being made by Game Freak. They're doing an RPG. Game Freak makes Pokemon.
That's interesting.
And apparently, it's a game that uh, you could call it the Eastern games that I like. Yeah, do you trust them? Sure. But yeah, we're currently, that's the project right now is Genshin, working through the story. I've at least started chaptering out my videos. Sadly, I won't be able to probably join him. I mean, I'll let you know about Brand New Day tomorrow, but it's probably not going to happen. But I'll message you the day of because I gotta have to wake up because I gotta work. The last story I did the other day on stream was 7 hours of a lot of dialogue.
Wow.
I gotta tell you, each updating engine, if it takes this long.
Back into underwater effect. I don't know what's up with that tonight.
Okay, let me
But
say what I'm gonna say. It's a lot of because it's like Brand New Day. Brand New Day disappoints me. It's
I
not,
loved it.
but let me say that there is a major lore assassination in it, multi and I
Yeah, I
explained.
know, I know, I know.
And it's the same thing I'm going through with Genshin right now. Genshin and Nodcry is lore assassination, but it is all you have to do to maintain continuity. I'm fine with you saying this is official canon events, but please, when you have 6 years, 5 years of established lore, someone please remind a person. It's like basically the red shirt guy did to Blizzard. He corrected the lore. So now you know.
Yeah.
So I'll be streaming that. That's my project this week. And yeah, I get accused of doing long game streams, but it's 7 hours of a story, and I suspect, and I auto played the dialogue. Okay, yeah, no, it's fine.
That's brave. Anyway, on my end of the internet, you teased it tomorrow. Spider-Man, a brand new day, and I will be taking after brand new day some kind of a short movie review break for a few weeks. Except if something really truly amazing comes out, I think the next big review on the channel that I know for fact we'll be doing will be the new Insidious that will come at the end of the months of August. But again, if I see a very fun movie,
You have a high
uh,
hope.
I will do
Insidious.
another review. I ate the franchise.
God,
So
Insidious is like that film. It's like
again,
uh,
I ate the franchise, but it's new, so I gotta cover it.
okay,
That's
no, it's like how do I
a
put it?
terrible franchise.
It's like Annabelle. There's always a new Conjuring film
Well,
every
the
year.
Conjuring, I actually like some of the Conjuring movies, but like Insidious, I despise them all. Like the first, I think the first one was the one I hated the least. One of the more recent one, not the 2023 one. I think it was the 2018 something, or maybe a bit before. Wasn't so bad, but there are. It's not a good franchise. It's not a good franchise,
But
but it's new. They make them, so I gotta speak about it.
well, I think it's the one, right? No one ever says that it isn't. I think movies are going to be in that weird place because Marvel's going to. Brand New Day is, I think, the last film before Doomsday. I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
it is.
And
It is.
there was as I said, there's like I did send you the video for Saturday. That's good.
Yeah. Well,
And by
next Saturday I'm off. That's why we do a stream in the middle of the week.
oh,
Because I'm out of
save
town.
that one because
We save
apparently.
it for in 2 weeks. So
By the
basically,
way, I will say this for people who
the
have
Dragon, not the 8th, the 15th. So
Okay, yeah.
yeah,
Let me
yeah.
say
So
this before. It's not that people think the Odyssey will fail. Yes, the Odyssey has crossed 700 million. That's due to IMAX
it's
sales.
about to do a million. Yeah.
It's about But here's the thing about the Odyssey that's coming out with Christopher Nolan. What I sent him is, and I found the actual interview that that lady was quoted. Emily Wilson has come out in interviews and said Christopher Nolan ruined the interpretation of the Odyssey. And that's the translation it was based on.
I'm not surprised. So anyway, outside of brand new day, Wednesday, there's a question mark. If I do stream, I will be streaming Resident Evil 0. Thursday, just like Wednesday, will be another question mark whether I will stream or not. Next weekend, I'm taking the weekend off. I'm not in town. But next week, Resident Evil 0, if the game is not over yet, because again, I'm taking a short movie review break for a few weeks. And we are back Saturday 15th for another reaction stream. So it's not next Saturday, it's the Saturday after. And we will resume normal activities from that point on. That being said, I am Multi-Topic Talk. Thank you a lot. Dragon, always a great time reacting to things together. I am Multi-Topic Talk. Talk to all of you later. Have a great one and take care.